Good afternoon. Welcome to All About Animals. I am Sherry Graditor, and we are in Burlington, Wisconsin at the home of the green goats, including baby Hiccup here, who is 2.5 months old.
Yep,
little
2.5
girl.
months.
And this show basically is in response to a program that we did previously about the whole concept of the green goats, what they are, what they do. This is a little mommy-less baby, and she's become very much a pet, hasn't she?
Oh yeah, she's the house goat.
She goes with you in
She
your
lives-
car.
Yep,
and,
she lives in the house and rides in the car like a dog.
Yep, and she's absolutely the cutest thing you've ever seen.
And she does a little bit of therapy work. She was at a hospice yesterday doing goat selfies. With people.
Very nice. So first, briefly, what is the concept of the green goats?
Okay, the goats, well, I use them to clear land. I use them to clear weeds and brush, noxious things that people want to get rid of. A lot of things, I'm going to go ahead and put her down, let her go back to eating.
She can go back to work.
Yeah. There's a lot of plants that people want to get rid of, invasive plants, and they're invasive because our native wildlife doesn't really eat them. Mm-hmm. And so they get out of control.
No, sweetheart. Don't eat the cord.
She hasn't seen cords. No, she's just scratching her nose.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. So a lot of these plants are, well, we call them weeds, and then there's the ones in the Chicago area would be really bad is buckthorn. It's just infesting the woods, and it's killing off our native plants and killing off our native wildlife. And how that works is that our wildlife is adapted to eat our plants. Mm-hmm. And the plant in the eastern United States that supports the most wildlife is the oak tree. It supports something like 550 species. And these are all the little insects. They can eat off the oak tree. And then our birds, all our songbirds, eat the insects.
Sure.
And so if you lose those oaks, you lose the songbirds. And the deer eat the acorns. Everything eats acorns. And I mean, there's just so many animals. The oak spreads everywhere. I mean, its influence spreads throughout the ecosystem. When you have a bunch of buckthorn, you lose your oaks.
Because the sun?
There's no sun. Yes. Nothing's hitting the ground anymore. You got your big oaks, one or two, but you know,
no baby oaks.
No baby oaks coming up.
And when the big oaks go,
then
they're
it's
gone.
Then all you have is buckthorn. And only about maybe 3 of our native species can eat buckthorn, as far as insects. Now the deer can eat it, but they don't know it because it's not native to them. It's not hardwired in their brain. And the other thing about deer is that they're a browser, just like the goat. They take a bite, they walk 2 steps. They take a bite, they walk 2 steps. This never stresses the plants, so it doesn't bother the plant at all. The goat is an old world grazer. Buckthorn is its favorite food. So when I put them in there and I concentrate them with a fence, yeah, they take a bite and they walk 2 steps and walk 2 steps and walk 2 steps. They hit the fence, they turn left, they walk 2 steps, they circle back around. Now they're back at the same plant. They take another bite.
And you got a bunch of goats out there too.
And I put a lot in there, yeah. And so I can strip a place. I defoliate, and that stresses the plants and in time kills them without any chemicals and without mowing, without using fossil fuels. And it just does a better job.
It does a better job, and
you
don't have to use chemicals.
And when you have huge acreage, there's not enough people out there to hire to cut that stuff down. When the acreage is big, the goats really clean through it fast.
I saw, and we will cut in some video of what a piece of land looks like after the goats have been there.
Yeah.
It actually looks like almost like there'd been a burn. It's down to the ground.
Yep, but it's not black.
But it's not black.
Yeah.
And although this stuff will grow back.
It's a form of mowing.
Yeah.
But if you mow often enough, you will kill off the plants you're trying to get rid of. And then you replace it. You have to replace it with the plants that are supposed to be there. Okay,
so now we're going to go from the basics to the questions, because this is what they circle around. And the first question is, okay, you've got a bunch of goats and they're out mowing everything down. What happens if you have trees that you want to save?
We don't put the goats in there.
Okay.
Everything inside the fence is fair game. But they don't go after big trees. But they go after fruit trees, because fruit trees have sugar under their bark, and they know that, and they peel that bark off to get at that sugar.
So you're not going to put them out in an orchard?
You don't put goats in an orchard. They would not work well. You could use in an orchard, well, an orchard would not be infested with woody
because
plants.
they keep it clear.
Because they keep it clear. But you can clear an orchard with animals. You just need a different kind of animal. You need a grazer. Mm-hmm. And you don't want a big grazer like a cow, because they would compress the soil on the roots of the trees. So you use little grazers like miniature ponies or sheep. Mm-hmm. Little things, and you move them through fast. You don't just turn them loose in the orchard. You put a small fence. They graze here for half a day, Then they move and they graze here for half a day.
And they
move.
can do it. And
The other thing is poultry.
Sure.
Poultry grazes.
Yes.
Geese are huge grazers, as anyone knows who's trying to get them out of the neighborhood.
Yes, indeed.
But geese are also, they're also a holiday bird for people who like to cook goose. And so they are an agricultural product, and they will trim things very short, and they will not harm the trees at all, and they leave a nice little fertilizer, and they'll take care of an orchard that way.
In other words, basically what you're saying is that there are natural ways of doing this that don't involve poisoning the soil.
Right.
Yeah.
Or wasting time mowing, or wasting fossil fuels mowing.
Exactly.
You can do it with animals.
Yes. And when you use fossil fuels, you have an output that is not healthy for the environment.
Right.
When you're using animals, you're producing fertilizer, basically.
Right, right.
Yeah. So not only do they clear it, they fertilize it for whatever you're planting.
Well, animals are a part of a cycle, and the lawnmower is not.
Absolutely.
Animals are part of a natural cycle of the plants take the sun and the carbon dioxide, and they make sugar and protein. The animals eat that and
make whatever
more
they
protein
make.
and manure. Yeah, 85% of nutrients go through an animal. And so it's a natural system. And those can be repeated forever. But we're going to run out of fossil fuel.
And we're going to wind up poisoning all of our groundwater, too.
Yes, and we're making a big mess of things.
Absolutely. Question number 2, and this one came from a gentleman from out of the country, actually. He wanted to know if your goats if they get affection from people, if they want affection from people, or if they're just herd animals. So outside of Baby Hiccup over here.
I fell asleep watching Jimmy Fallon with her on the futon last night. So yes, they do get affection.
But what about your big guys that
My
you
big
throw
guys
out?
do. I like mine tame because I'm quite often working alone. And when I'm working alone, if I've got a 300-pound animal, I want it to be friendly.
Yes.
Because they're not fun to wrestle around.
No, and some of them have horns.
They all have horns. I don't dehorn them. No, I leave their horns. They need their horns out in the woods for protection.
For sure.
And they use their horns. They like to rub their horns on trees.
Mm-hmm.
And so that causes more damage to the buckthorn because they rub the bark off with their
Wonderful.
horns. And they chew the bark off.
Anything they can do to the buckthorn is more than welcome.
They love to damage buckthorn.
Okay.
So, yes, they do get affection. I have about 150. They don't all have names, but as a name occurs, if I can remember it, it sticks. So, I've got Nugget and Christopher and Bucky and Orca. And
we met a bunch
Twerp.
of them last time, yes.
There's quite a few of them that if you sit down on the ground and just wait, pretty soon you have little noses on the back of your head and in your ear and all over. And then sometimes, though, they get jealous and they start slamming each other because they want heads because they want to be the only one getting petted. So you have to be a little careful.
Well, I can't say that's any different than any other animal that's socialized to people. Okay, question the next. What happens in the winter when there's nothing for them to graze on?
In the winter, they go back to my farm, and we graze the pastures down to the proper height. I don't overgraze. And then they're brought into the winter pens, and they're fed hay.
Okay.
I go through about 100 round bales a year. A round bale is about 800 pounds. And they waste a lot, and that's what they sleep on outside.
Yeah, and what you said to me is, I said, what do they do in the winter? And you said they sit around and eat like pigs and fill their bellies.
Yes, they do. They eat and eat. They are locusts. They eat a lot.
Well, but that's what you want them to do during the summer. So,
it keeps them healthy. Yeah. I feed them as much hay as they want, and they also get some corn. Not too much, because too much corn will make them sick. But I just pour out enough to give them the extra calories they need.
Sure, they need.
And we
have
big barns too. They're out any day that it's nice enough. But if it's a blizzard or something, they're in the barn. The doors are shut, and it's just open. They're just all milling around.
But it's nice and warm in there because they've got the body heat.
They have the body heat.
Sure. I'm trying to think. What were some of the other questions that people wanted to know? They wanted to know how you can find them. Now, you said you put up a fence.
How I find the goats?
How you can find them.
When they're done?
When you're bringing them out to a field, you fence the area that you want them in. Do you fence a huge area? Is it a little area?
I've done as much as 6 acres at once.
Oh, wow.
Of wooded acres. And and then you walk around and you call them.
And they come.
Yeah, I say, here goats, here goats. And they come. And I usually have a bucket of corn. I rattle a bucket of corn. And when they see me, I run. And that instigates them to chase. Possibly because, I've raised all of them. So they know me as the leader. And it's possible that when I take off running, they think that there's a predator, so they all bunch in behind me.
Or
So
else they think you're
sometimes-
the lead goat.
Yeah, I'll come running through the woods and I've got this whole pack behind me. And I'm
Oh, I
trying to
love
keep
it.
ahead because I've got the corn, and if they get up there, they'll jump up and take it.
Sure.
Quite often I'm holding the corn up here.
And they're all on their hind legs going,
Yes.
gimme, gimme, gimme.
Yes.
Yes.
And well, no, their feet are on me at that point. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And lastly, the other thing that I got asked was, is there a difference between the goats that you're bringing out to somebody's field and petting zoo or trained or whatever? Is there a difference in the way they behave?
There is a difference because my goats, they know the routine. They know we get on the trailer, and when we get off, we have fresh food. And the first goats off the trailer will be eating before the last goats are off the trailer. They're already got their heads in the food eating. Now, if you take an animal that's been raised in a petting zoo and he's never been out on fresh grass, he's just been fed handfuls of food for the kids
Corn
to
and
feed
stuff,
him, corn and whatever they're feeding him. He doesn't know what this is, really. I mean, he kind of knows what it is. But the other difference is their microbiology inside. A goat is a ruminant. They have a 4-chambered stomach. The first chamber is the rumen, and that's full of bacteria and other microorganisms. And when they eat very quickly, because then they want to pack themselves, and then they go lay down in a group, so they have many eyes to watch for predators, and they chew their cud. Whatever they ate, now they burp up, and they get real dreamy-eyed when they do this, and they chew it. It looks like a kid chewing gum. Meow, meow, meow. That's what teachers always say, or they used to when when people lived on farms. They wouldn't let kids chew gum in school because they look like a cow chewing its cud. So they chew their cud, and then they swallow it, and then up it comes, and then they swallow it, and it just goes back and forth, and the bacteria work on it, and it ferments. Oh, look who's back. And once it is fermented, then it passes to the next stomach, and it takes a big load of bacteria with it. And the bacteria that passes into their next stomach, they actually digest as a source of protein.
Wow.
So
their stomachs work, and then they're
So when they eat, what they're doing is they're feeding the bacteria, and then their bacteria inside them feeds the goat.
okay.
So if you take a petting zoo animal that has been eating bagged food, it's got a totally different bacterial system than a goat that's been out here in the wild eating leaves off of trees. So that petting zoo goat, he's not going to do as well out there as mine. And eventually, it might take a couple years or something to get. I don't know how long it would take.
I like what you said, and you said it so well. You said my goats are professionals.
My goats are professionals. They get right to the job. They know what they're supposed to do, and they know the fence. And
we are pretty much out of time. Would you believe that? That's how fast it goes. So I want to wind this up with a phone number people can reach you at.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, my website is thegreengoats.com. And my friend said, hey, everybody open it and bump me to the top of Google's list.
So if
All my tech friends.
if you're sitting around and you don't have a whole lot to do,
Just
open
Google
it and
it,
bump
yeah.
it up to the top of Google's list. It will help.
Yes, that will help the green goats.
Yes.
And my phone number is 608-426-2825.
And I really want to thank you for answering some of these. We actually got questions from Thailand and Japan.
Wow.
On the question of the goats. We are out of time, and I am going to take us now to Save a Pet and show us some of the dogs and cats that are waiting for adoption.